Hi, and welcome back with the first episode of the coding along session for the Lego Builder app. Now, some basic intros here and some things you need to know before you get into this. This is a series made for students for Erasmus Hogeschool Brussels. Now, of course, if you're not in our school and want to follow this along, by all means, I will explain most of it to the best of my abilities. But of course, the students have the theory sections available to them in their online course in Canvas. Now, we are going to be building it step by step. The students can follow along on Canvas, and otherwise I will just be saying here which steps we are going to take. Before we start, your PC needs to be ready. So as you can see, I have Visual Studio Code installed, and you need Node. Now, with Node comes the NPM as well. So NPM also needs to be installed. So a quick check to see if that's okay is Node-V and NPM-V. We mostly need NPM to install or use at least the Create React app. The Create React app is a very easy way to get up and running. Now I know but by the time of this recording, Vite is getting a lot of attention, a lot of praise. Now we're not going to be chasing trends here at all. So Create React app has been doing well for some time now. So we're going to choose a stable solution to create applications with this tool. Now, before we dive right in, one thing that I would like to show you is later on when we are going to be creating multiple components, a lot of things are going to be, instead of typing it up manually, there are some handy tools in Visual Studio Code with regards to snippets that are handy. Now, you don't need to use them. I just suggest to install them. And then by the time you get proficient in React and you're creating your 500th functional component, by example, then with like 3 or 4 letters and a tab, you can automatically boilerplate that. So simple React snippets and ES7 React snippets here. Those are the two that I use most. Again, install at your own by your own choice. And the last thing that we're going to do is, for me, I really suck at design. So I want to take the design as much out of my hands as possible. So I'm going to be using React Bootstrap. So with that out of the way, you can do everything in here with HTML and CSS. I will show you where to place the CSS and how to style it. I'm just going to be using React Bootstrap for this. All right. Let's get going then. Let's create our first application. As you can see, I have created a folder empty specifically for this session. So I'm going to create a new application with the use of Create React app. So we're going to use the command npx create dash react app, and then the name of our application. I'm going to call it Lego collection. Enter. And then it will install. We wait a second for this until this is installed, and then we will check out what we have got. And we are done. So I am going to, of course, pause the video sometimes for you guys, for the slow parts to be over in a second. Now, we have a very complete application right here. Some things you might have noticed from Web 2 as well. So the package.json has all the things in it. The interesting thing that we need is everything in the source folder. So in the source folder, just to go through, we have the index.html, and the only thing that's in there that's of any use is the ID root, the div with that. Now, we are going to load a complete JavaScript application in that root div. Now, where does that start? It starts with index.js. Just to show you the order of it. So as you can see here, index.js, it does something that you know very well. Document get element ID root, and it's going to create a root React node basically in that div. What are we going to do in that root node? Well, we are going to render the app component, and the app component is where everything starts for React. This is our first component where we are going to be doing some stuff and reworking it. Now, to test if everything works, you can go to your terminal, and I'm going to clear it. And we are going to run it. So npm start, make sure that we run a local server. First, we need to navigate, of course, in our new application cd. So make sure you are in the actual folder for the application, and then we run npm start. As you can see, this is the last time you're going to be seeing this. We're going to be rebuilding this with a header, a table, a button, and then a set. So let's go. And then you can view this in your browser by going through to localhost 3000. And voila, this is our first React application. We have a very nice animation in here. Now, how are we going to be adjusting it? Well, we're going to throw everything away and we're going to start anew. Because what are we going to create? I'm going to show you this first. Again, we are going to create a header, a table, and then we're going to start there. And then we're going to keep building on that with using CSS components, and I'll show you the first things for React. All right, you can go to app.js and remove everything from the div called app. So basically, this is your component. Let's examine this a bit first. So this is normal that it updates because there is nothing in the app component. So the app component here imports a logo. We can delete that because we don't need the React logo. And it imports CSS as well. So CSS in here. And you can use CSS in here, which is quite weird. So this is one of the first things you're going to learn. Styling can be sectioned off by components. So these CSS files are, this CSS file is only usable here in the app component. If you're going to create new components in a second with me, you can create separate CSS files that are specific for those components. If you want global things to be set, you can adjust everything in the index.css. So as you can see here, the standard body stuff and the font family that's going to be used throughout the application is already set there. Again, this is from create React app. But if you want some general stuff to be the same for every component or everything from your website, you do it in index.css. Otherwise, it's a best practice to do it component by component. Now, in the app.js, as you might recall, we have that banner. Now we're going to create a banner in here. Again, this is a function. And the function is going to return JSX. Or is it going to return? It might look like HTML to you. But again, it's a bit different. It's going to be rendered in HTML by React. But it's actually JSX. Now, there's going to be some small differences, as you might have seen here. If you want to add a class, you use class name instead of class as we know from HTML. So app.css, if we look here, has app link, app header, app logo, app. If you want to use those classes, you can, in a new component, use, for example, class name. The auto completion is also there. Okay. Now for the banner, I have prepared something to make it a bit quicker. Make sure you pause the video in certain places to make sure that you're up to date. Now, as you can see, the banner is just a div with the class name banner. I have not updated the class yet. I will do that in a second. Just an image from Rebrickable. I use Rebrickable because that's where all the data comes from. So Rebrickable is for the Lego nerds out there. It also has an API, so if you later want to update this application with fetch calls, you could do so. So Rebrickable is shown and just an H2 element below it. Now I want to place them next together, so I'm going to be adding some CSS. So the class name banner, I'm going to be adding that to app.css. I'm going to be adding a class name here, banner, and I'm going to be copy pasting, because I have prepared it, of course, some settings to make sure it looks a bit nicer. So I'm going to make it flex. I'm going to make sure all the content is centered, and I'm going to place a little bit gap in there and some margin on the top and the bottom. All right, so this is our first item. Now, we are just creating inside the app component. We can create a separate component for this. We're not going to do that. We're going to show you that we can mix it together. Now, for the next part, I want to add that table with all the sets. Now, the table is using React Bootstrap. So, let's jump to React Bootstrap and see how we can update our React app to be using React Bootstrap.